I we had here. Your universal grammar is understandable for us people of academia, people who are in the profession, but for ordinary people, because some people believe that science has to be simplified to the extent that ordinary people can understand. And I want to hear it in your own words. How do you simplify universal grammar so that my school students also understand what that means? Thank you.
Well, let's take another human faculty. Let's take the faculty of vision. Okay, we can all see. I can see you. When I look at you, I see a person. Actually, what's hitting my retina is not a person. My eyes are uh, carrying out what's called saccadic motion, seeing different spots on the screen in front of me. But somehow, out of this sequence of random spots, which are not part of my consciousness, my mind is working away and it's presenting an image of a person. How does that happen? How are we able to do this? Well, there's only one possibility. It's nothing that we've learned. Okay, it turns out that experience is relevant to it. We know this from experiments with animals, like cats. If you deprive a kitten of, uh, structured visual stimuli in the first weeks of its life, it goes blind. It has to have structured, patterned stimulation in the first weeks of its life, and that triggers an innate, genetically determined capacity, which then goes on to produce this amazing capacity. Language is pretty much the same. The name of the universal, each infant has internally a system, a genetically determined system, which is triggered by external stimuli. Here are some noises. Actually, it's a very tricky business, hearing noises, and even when you hear noises in a foreign language, it's just noise. You can't pick out the words, you can't pick out the sounds, but you can hear something over and over. You don't even know it's the same thing. And that's the situation of the infant. But somehow it has the capacity to overcome this, instantly pick out particular configurations of sound, go on to construct in its mind the complex expressions that we then use. You know that a 2 or 3 year old infant already has mastered a huge amount of knowledge of language, far more than it can exhibit. And it goes on to the state in which we now are, reach in late childhood usually. Uh, how does this happen? Same way as vision. There's a genetically determined component. There's some external stimuli which have an effect on, which trigger its operation and affect the shape that it takes. That genetically determined component is what's called universal grammar. We could call universal vision the innate component that enables you to see a person instead of just a series of dots from saccadic eye motion. The universal grammar enables the Galilean challenge to be met. What so amazed Galileo is and his contemporaries is as they pretty much guessed, an internal system of what they call general and rational grammar, what we nowadays call universal grammar, which suffices to provide the basic properties of any language. And it turns out it used to be thought back in the 1950s, in the days of structural linguistics, that languages can differ in almost any possible way, and each one has to be studied without any presuppositions. We now know that that's totally wrong. Turns out that all languages are very much cast to the same mold. The apparent differences between them, which makes it, are rather superficial. Most of them have to do with the way language is externalized into the sensory motor system. The core part, which yields the infinite array of thoughts, that's probably uniform or near uniform among humans. Pretty much like capacity for vision. Now, that's the basic point.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Professor Chomsky. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Chomsky.